Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York. And all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean, buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, love forswore me in my mother's womb, and for I should not deal in her soft laws, she did corrupt frail nature with some bribe to shrimp mine arm up like a withered shrub, to heap an envious mountain on my back, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in every part, like to a chaos, or an unlicked bare whelp that carries no impression like the dam. Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy my shadow in the sun, and descant on mine own deformity. Then, since this earth affords no joy to me, but to command, to check, to o'erbear such as are of better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown. And whiles I live, to account this world but hell, until this misshaped trunk that bears this head be round impaled with a glorious crown. But yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lives stand between me and home. And I like one lost in a thorny wood, that rends the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown, and from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with the bloody axe. Why? I can smile, and murder whilst I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, deceive more slyly than Ulysses could, and like a Sinon take another Troy. I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this, and cannot get a crown? Tut, were it further off, I'll pluck it down.
A horse! My kingdom for a horse!
Withdraw, my lord. I'll help you to a horse.
Slave, I have set my life upon a cast, and I will stand the hazard of the die. I think there be 6 Richmonds in the field. 5 have I slain today instead of him. A horse! A horse! My kingdom for a horse!
grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fight the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I that am rudely stamped, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up. And that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt lively. Why, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to espy my shadow in the sun and descant on mine own deformity. I can smile and murder while I smile, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover, I'm determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots have I laid.
In the very opening scene of the play, tells us just how badly he feels about the peacetime world he finds himself in and what he intends to do about it. Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York, and all the clouds that lowered on our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarum changed to merry meetings.
What do they do when the fighting stops?
Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasings of a lute.
And you see lovemaking and relations with the other gender as what you translate your male aggressions into. But Richard III has a little problem here.
But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass. I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed.
He was a hunchback.
Deformed. Unfinished. Sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to see my shadow in the sun, and descant upon mine own deformity.
Shakespeare has exaggerated his deformity in order to body forth dramatically, visually, metaphorically, the corruption of his mind.
Therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and to hate the idle pleasures of these days.
Richard's always saying, look, here's the situation, and here's what I'm going to do. Now watch this. And then he does it. And then they all leave. He says, wasn't that good? Was that good? Or what? You know, did you see how this is fun.
Plots have I laid. Inductions dangerous, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate, the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false this day should Clarence be mewed up about a prophecy that says that G of Edward's heirs the murderer shall be. It's this day should Clarence supposed to be mewed up about a prophecy which says that G of Edward's heirs.
Right.
By G, what does that mean? Yes.
Clarence, George, Duke of Clarence. His first name is really George.
Whose first name is?
Clarence's, and that's why they call him G.
Yeah,
and I suggest that you just change it to C.
This day should Clarence closely be viewed up about a
privilege.
prophecy which says that C
Yeah.
of
Good.
Edward's heirs the murderer shall be.
Right.
C of Edward's heirs the murderer shall be. Dive thoughts down to my soul. Here, Clarence, come.